Good evening. This is the Charles Report. What to you on the Charles channel? I haven't been paying much attention to politics because it's so boring and troubling. And I don't know. I just find that I've lost interest in what people call politics. And I concentrate on other things these days. I'm working on my doctoral degree in psychology at Kaiser University. I'm back in that program, and I'm going to be putting together a sixth book. It'll be all poems in my loose leaf series, and I'm probably going to find a new publisher. It's not going to be with Lulu. They never pay me any royalty checks, and well, that sucks. Um, anyway, uh, that's the story here. The Charles Report was something I did many years ago and posted to YouTube, and it was a lot of fun. But I see that YouTube has come a long ways, and what they're making available to people. For instance, this platform here is really quite interesting, and I think maybe I'll get back into the business of doing the weekly Charles Report. And I'm no longer going to be wearing a Red Army cap that a friend of mine gave me when he was in Tibet, of all places, and he bought the Red Army cap. And I don't think I'm going to be wearing it anymore. Oh, the People's Liberation Army. I'm not Red Army. Would be Soviet Union. The People's Liberation Army, PLA hat. Anyway, I'm no longer going to be wearing that. I'm not longer going to try to be pretending to be a hardcore Marxist communist revolutionary. That's all kind of another lifetime. I've mellowed. I've moved on, you might say. But they were interesting years, and I don't regret that learning experience. Everything I learned, I'm sort of an autodidact. I've had to learn in unconventional ways, and my if I had been wealthy and had been able to go to Princeton, I would have taken a course in Marxism, Marxist thought, and all that stuff. But I didn't. So I joined the Socialist Labor Party when I was, I think, 35 or 30, or I don't know, my 30s, and got my Marxist education that way. And now I tell people I'm a phenomenologist. I've an existentialist, a phenomenologist, and more interested in people like Lev Shestov and Friedrich Nietzsche and many other people than I am in what I had been previously interested in, quoting Marx without ever having read Marx. And I don't understand why people call themselves Marxist, as if they want it. That's a badge of distinction. It's the only thing that is used. I mean, why don't? Well, how about if I've read most of Jung. I've read a lot of Freud. So, am I a Freudian? I just call myself a Freudian. I don't know. I don't get it. I think that's kind of. I think socialism will have to find a way to reinvent itself if it wants to be relevant. Because I think that this younger generation that I associate with some of my coursework, they don't have any time for that kind of stuff. They're really much more business oriented and just I wouldn't say business oriented, but down to earth and keeping their nose to the grindstone and wanting to practical, much more practical, and not theoretical dreamers and utopianist moralizers. Um, but I was brought up without a lot of how can I put it, opportunity for education beyond high school. And I don't want to fault anybody because I grew up in a working class family for the most part. It seemed pretty bourgeois when my grandparents, when I was living with my grandparents, and they had a cook and a housekeeper. But that was a long time ago. We were definitely working class when my mother was just a secretary working at RCA and earning not very much money, and she had to support two sons who were living in an apartment that my grandparents built over their house after my mother left my father, and that was how I was brought up. And my family didn't really put a whole lot of stock in education because my grandfather had been brought up as in the meat business. His family owned a store up in North Camden, New Jersey. back when it was not too bad. When it was, a decent neighborhood. But of course, North Camden became a so-called shooting gallery and just a terrible place, run down, um, ghetto of the worst sort. It was probably one of the worst neighborhoods in the country, if not the world. Um, Maybe someplace in Calcutta might have been worse. I don't know. But I worked in Camden as a caseworker, welfare worker, and often had to go to North Camden. And well, I wouldn't say that I was filled with dread. It was always kind of interesting, but I wondered if I was going to hear any shots fired and what direction they'd be coming from. And it was a little bit risky, but I survived it. And that's my story. I'm Charles, and this is the Charles Channel, and I'm doing my first Charles report in many years. And this comes to you direct from 118 Sunbrook Circle North, Ormond Beach, Florida. And you can see I'm right here in my kitchen after having had some dinner and waiting for a friend to come over. My friend, Dr. Dina Milam, and she's going to give me some psychotherapy. No, we're just friends, but I could use the free therapy right about now. Anyway, she's going to buy me some cocktail sauce, and we're going to have some shrimp cocktail, maybe. Dina's a very interesting lady, and I enjoy being friends with her. I've learned a lot from her, and I hope maybe she's learned a few things from me. I don't know, maybe. Anyway, she tells me I'm interesting, and et cetera, but who knows? Maybe she's lying. Anyway, I hope this Charles report is interesting, and this is a live streaming thing. I don't know how that works. I'm just sort of playing around with the new technology and enjoying it. It's really amazing how far YouTube has come. They have this thing called UStudio, and I think I'm going to maybe be enjoying this. But anyway, this is kind of a fun thing for me right now. I'm waiting for just got done dinner, waiting for Dina, and I thought I'd have a little talk with you people out there who might happen to be dumb enough to waste time looking at this. And if you enjoy it, well, there must be something wrong with you. I don't know, because well, maybe it's enjoyable. I don't know. Who knows? I'm enjoying playing around with the technology and learning new things, and I'm staying abreast of media stuff. This is a wonderful opportunity for me to make a fool of myself. But anyway, that's my story. And if anybody wants to buy any of my books, they're available on Amazon. They're part of what I call Loose Leaves series. Loose Leaves is in the title. My last book was entitled Loose Leaves 5, A Mixed Bag. And it's true stories about Camden, New Jersey, which was a tough town to live in, work in, even just to breathe the air. It was rough there. But it was the city I was born in. And if I go back, well, it might be, I hate to think about it, but well, I was born in West Jersey Hospital in 1950. And of course, I grew up in the suburbs. People just brought their wives and mothers to the hospital where they had babies, and they took them back to the suburbs. But West Jersey Hospital is a rural hospital. And Camden, New Jersey is where Walt Whitman, it wasn't where he was born originally from. He was from Manhattan, I believe, New York, or someplace in New York. But he adopted Camden as his home after his duties as a nurse in Washington, D.C. And I don't know what age, maybe the 30s, but I remember his house is in Camden, and it's just the way it was when he lived there. And he was famous for taking the ferry over to Philadelphia, where he would go to, the soirees of the elite out on the main line, and he hobnobbed with the intellectual, the intelligentsia, and the writers of the era who, in literary circles along the main line where many wealthy people lived. And then, travel back to Camden, a complete unknown, and, live his life as the poet of democracy. He was no doubt an interesting person. And but I went to his. He's buried in Harley Cemetery in Camden, New Jersey, right next to Our Lady of Lourdes Hospital, and across from what used to be, I don't know if it's still there, the Whitman Chocolate Factory. And I don't know if there's any connection between the Whitman Chocolate Factory and Walt Whitman, maybe the family. I really don't know. I'll have to look into that someday. Um, Not someday soon, maybe someday. Um, anyway, so I've been to his gravesite, and it's a very dank, dark corner. It's actually near the entrance, and he's got a very nice mausoleum that speaks much wealth, and it's nobody could have. He must have come from a wealthy family to have built such an impressive mausoleum. But maybe his literary champions built that. Excuse me, I just had dinner, so you know what that's about. Must have built the mausoleum. I don't know. I don't know much about it, but it was a very impressive mausoleum. He was the only person interned there. And Harley Cemetery is a very old cemetery um, on the outskirts of Camden. But his house was just it wasn't a brick house. It was like a wood clapboard house, with wood clapboard siding. And it was, um, not fancy or anything. It was rather basic. But he had people that would come in and help him, and I don't think he was known by any of the neighborhood. They didn't know who he was, or he was not well known in his day. I don't think he was a poet. But I don't know why I'm going off on this, but today in Camden, New Jersey, there is a thing called the Walton International Poetry Center, which really one of my favorite poets, Lawrence Ferlinghetti, is associated with, and I believe he is the director and was a moving force behind that. And I don't know if that has anything to do with Rutgers University in Camden, but I'm glad to see that happened. And it'd be nice if Camden could maybe find a way to reinvent itself or capitalize on its really interesting history, and pull itself up by its bootstraps, maybe, or just um, be all that it can be, which is more than it is now, maybe. But the poetry center is really nice, and it's well suited for the city of Camden. And I hope things work out. I haven't been to Camden, and moved to Florida in 1996, and I went back in '97, I believe, and haven't been back since. So I even missed my 50th class reunion, which I regret, but I wasn't able to get there, and too many other responsibilities here, and I kind of ran out of money and didn't have plane fare and hotel fare. And I mean, I don't like to drive long distances. I like to fly, rent a car, and stay in a nice hotel, or like Holiday Inn Express or something like that, because I kind of have panic attacks when I drive uh, far long distances on highways I'm not familiar with, and get lost, and then I start to get really crazy. I have panic attacks, and that's no good. I'd rather be in an airplane having a panic attack. Anyway, I'm Charles, and this is the resurrection of the Charles Report, and this is the Charles Channel, and I've really enjoyed this, and I hope that maybe this is just the first of many opportunities to talk to you folks out there in cyberspace, and uh, you know. I welcome you back to the Charles Channel. You brave souls who look at this and maybe laugh at me, or actually maybe enjoy it. I don't know. That's possible. But anyway, buy my books. They're on Amazon, and they're under the series of Loose Leaves. Loose Leaves is in all the titles. The first book was just entitled Loose Leaves, but of course. That's an autobiographical sketch of my life that is in the style, I thought, when I wrote it, of like Maxim Gorky. It's very much influenced by the autobiography of Maxim Gorky that I read when I was in Ireland. Somebody gave me a copy of it, and I worked in a pool hall. I used to hang out in the pool hall in Dublin, and a fellow who I stayed with one night, him and his wife. He gave me this book by Maxim Gorky called "My Child." No, I think it was "My Child." No, it was "My Apprenticeship," because um, the Gorky autobiography is 3 volumes. It's my childhood, my apprenticeship, and my universities, and it's an extraordinarily interesting uh, autobiography. Um, it doesn't read like, I mean, he had a Russia at that point. That was before the revolution. He talks about his life in Tsarist Russia and why there was a need for people saw a need for a revolution because it was a lot like today in America. It was just the untold wealth and power amassing to the autocracy and its retainers and to the boyars, the nobility, noble class in Russia, and the rising capitalists who were really not too much of a force to contend with. But the old feudal class, and the impoverishment of the the working class. There wasn't much of a working class. There wasn't much of a proletariat. It was mostly the people on the land, and they were like what they would call peasantry, or they had formerly been known as serfs. But the Russian peasantry was, very religious and patriotic, and well, just downright stupid sometimes. They really laid down their lives to try to defeat the Germans in World War One. But of course, the Germans defeated the Russians in World War One, and that was they really trounced them, and it was a tragedy for the Russian people. Um, the Many peasants lost their lives, and it was just pointless suffering, and it was just the inability of the autocrat of Nicholas II and his German wife to even have any idea as to what people were going through. The only smart person in the whole thing, and the whole palace was Rasputin, and he tried to warn them, but they didn't really listen, and he was the only person in touch with reality. He's got such a bad reputation because he was a womanizer, and his he felt we were all sinners, and his famous line with women was as a way of resolving their doubts about the evils of lust, and he would say, "My darling, you sin, I sin. Come, let us sin together." He had a lot of people, a lot of husbands that hated him, and he made love to a lot of you know boyars' wives, nobilities, noble lords would be like lords and dukes and duchesses in London. They called them boyars in Russia, and he made a lot. And Prince Felix Yusupov ended up murdering him, the scoundrel. Um, and he was a hard man to kill, Rasputin. But I often wonder if Vladimir Putin, President of Russia, is related to shortened his name from Rasputin to Putin, because I don't think Putin's much of it's not a very known name. I don't think. I don't know, but it'd be interesting if he were the case, because Rasputin was really a very complicated person and got a very bad deal from bad. He's been libeled by history. He was a much better person than they say. Maybe I just like him because he was a libertine, and he had no sense of he had a sense of sexual liberation, that's for sure. But no, I think he was very very much in touch with reality and tried to warn the autocrat through his wife, but they were not about to listen or capable of listening. And anyway, that's my little rant on Russia. And I was once a member of a Russian Orthodox church in Philadelphia. That was a wonderful experience for me because I learned so much about the Orthodox way of life and the history of Russia. It's the history of Christianity in Russia, but it was a great opportunity for me to learn, and met many very nice people, and even met the patriarch of the Russian Orthodox Church in New Jersey. He came over here with his KGB entourage, That's what I heard. I don't know how true it is. Um, and he gave me a little medal of the Theotokos, it's the Blessed Mother, and I lost it. Damn it, I lost it. Uh, I don't know how I could have been so dumb. I really prized that thing, and but maybe it's giving a blessing to somebody else. I don't know, but I did. Yeah, Patriarch Pimen, and he was reputed to have been a plaything of the KGB, but I don't know. He just handed me the medal of the medallion of the Theotokos, and I gladly took it. And that was a great learning experience for me to have been associated with such interesting and really nice people. Um, and that was in Philadelphia, right across the river from Camden, New Jersey. And Camden at that time was a pretty sad city, but that's the city I was born in, and maybe someday I'll go back to. Who knows? Life's pretty unpredictable, and anything is possible, as Lev Shestov said. I do believe that anything is possible, but not probable. It's a lot of things are possible, but the probability is quite low. So I try to always take it what I think is a fairly rational and scientific perspective on things, because that's all we've got. We don't have much else. We're strangers in this universe to most of the facts of life, and we're trying to get a grip on reality, and that's the essence of phenomenology. Is you don't get hung up, you don't get waylaid by, you don't confuse the roadmap with the territory. And we have all these fine and fancy theories, but that's not what reality may look like. Maybe entirely different. As a matter of fact, I think it is. I think we have no just the slightest, not even. We've only scratched the surface in terms of understanding what reality is about. It's maybe it's more like Alice in Wonderland than anything we can imagine. It could be wormholes in space, and the ability to travel. Well, maybe time travel. I mean, travel vast different light years and seconds. I don't know. I mean, History Channel has the ancient aliens series, and that's quite interesting. But I don't really think that's very too rational. It seems to be it's entrepreneurial. Somebody's making a lot of money selling those tapes or the CDs and the DVDs and books, and it might be it's interesting, but it's not real science. It's bullshit science, but it's entertaining, and anyway, we need to be entertained once in a while. And that's kind of like what I'm doing right now. I'm hopefully entertaining you, and if I'm not, well, I mean, I don't know what to say. I'm doing my best, but well, I'm having a good time, and I see I've wasted 23 minutes and 11, 12 seconds, 13, 14. And the time is ticking away. Maybe I ought to run my mouth for another 7 minutes, and I'll have done a whole half hour of the new Resurrected Charles report on the Charles channel. And I guess I don't know if this is being recorded, or I don't know really diddly about it. I'm just playing around with it here after having had dinner in my kitchen, and I saw that this was possible. I was just looking at a YouTube video on Mad Dog Sullivan, and the Irish gangster from he was quite an awful guy, but his wife and his kids loved him, and I'm sure he was a dedicated father. But he killed an awful lot of people, and he spent the rest of his life in Attica. Thank God. We don't want people like that on the street. But you can learn a lot from. He was a person with a dissociative identity disorder, in my opinion. He had he had sub personalities that he employed when he had to carry out these assassinations or executions, whatever you want to call it, that he was paid for by the fat Tony Salerno, the acting boss of the Genovese crime family in New York. He was his well, they call it stupid term, hitman. He was his fucking assassin. I mean, God, he was very good at it. But he was twisted up in his head, and had it talked about him having various. One of the person talked about him various personalities that would more or less he could turn on or turn off, but I don't know if he really had control. You know, these were sub personalities, and he probably had some form of dissociative identity disorder that was due to the trauma as a child. He was beaten by his mother and abused in many ways, and the kid would tend to dissociate from that and develop dissociative identity disorder as a way to survive. That's how it is that is develops. So I think that was probably, I believe that such sick puppies are generally sick people. They're really not evil per se. They're not evil, but they're just sick people, and we need to study those people and figure out why they got the way they are. You can study them if you put them in prison and you don't execute them. But some people um, need to be they need to have their genes removed permanently from the gene pool because we don't want that mixing with normal people. I'm talking about people like Bundy, the really awful ones. They need to get the hell off the planet quick. Anyway, but Mad Dog was a very he was an Irish gangster, and the Irish love their gangsters like I guess the Italians do. I don't know. It's New York's a funny kind of a place. I've never been to Hell's Kitchen, but I believe it's over by Greenwich Village, and Greenwich Village is a really swinging place. I love it. Very expensive though, and New York's a terrific town. I mean, it's a great city, one of the great cities of the world, and there's always something to do. There's plenty of exciting things, and he frequented Greenwich Village, so he must not have been a fairly intelligent person. He just was really twisted up by the fact that and his father was a policeman, so he was brought up in a well, he was brought up as a strict Catholic. Went to Catholic school. Was an older boy. It was very interesting to listen to the personal narrative of his life and how he ran amok and his how he developed. His development was quite quite cancerous. It was terrible. I mean, abuse is what forms these monsters. Normal people that are given love and affection, they're nice. They don't turn into, assassins and mass killers. It doesn't happen that way. They become, decent people. They respect human life, but people have had the living shit beat out of them and abused by their parents and others. They have a hatred for humanity, and Mad Dog he brings that out, and it's very interesting. I don't study forensic psychology, but I believe forensic psychology has maybe some things to tell us. I think there's a lot to learn from people like that about how to prevent those sort of terrible malignant personalities from developing by making sure that children have what it takes for them to develop decent lives. I my mother did the best she could with me and my brother, but sometimes I believe all parents make mistakes, and I am of the opinion that a child should never be hit. It's not something that an adult should do, and many kids of my generation took beatings that were quite awful, not right, and this left its mark on us. Um, the Catholic schools were known for their corporal punishment, and I never had any problems with the nuns. I felt the nuns were very kind and decent and professional, and even loving people. Women who worked with children were trained as teachers to work with children. But at a Catholic high school I attended, it was the priests were not. They were resentful, mean, and not. There's a code of silence that protects them, and I'm not part of it, and I don't care to be part of it because it needs to be talked about. And the violence that they inflicted on, I don't know about girls. The school was segregated. I mean, they didn't have boys and girls together like a normal high school does. They had separated but the boys were abused, and it was a shame, tragically so, um, and it probably ruined a lot of lives. And I hope someday they take responsibility for it. Anyway, I think I'm going to shut my mouth. It's 30 minutes and 15 seconds into this, and I am experimenting with this and having some fun with it and learning. So maybe you've learned something from me, and I've learned something from the technology, and we can all be happy. Let's sign off for tonight before we say something terribly stupid. I don't know. Anyway, goodbye, good night, and how do I turn this thing off? Let me see. End stream. Okay. Oh, this isn't a touch screen. This is an Apple. Oh man. All right. Goodbye.